Hey everybody! Thanks so much for joining me today, wherever you are. I am sad I can't see each of your faces like I get to do on Sunday mornings, but I am so glad that you are here, and I am glad that we can still experience, hopefully, a good bit of what we are able to learn together on Sunday mornings in Cathedral Kids. Maybe you're a regular attender of Cathedral Kids, or maybe you've never been a part of it. It doesn't matter. Either way, I'm just glad that you're here and we can hear these stories together. So I'm going to read today a story from the Jesus Storybook Bible. And if you have this book at home and you want to open up and follow along, you can turn to page 294. The story today that I am going to read, as well as the stories the next 2 weeks that I plan to read, all lead up to what happens on Easter Sunday. And so the story today is called A Dark Night in the Garden. So if you want to open up and follow along. And then before I begin, there are 2 questions that I think might be really good for you to talk about together as a family, talk about in your household. In the book of Mark, we learn a lot about Jesus's life. And so these 2 questions you will be able to answer with our story that we hear today and then over the next couple weeks. But the first question is, who is Jesus? And then the second question is, why did Jesus die? So just keep those in the back of your minds. Okay, so I'm going to basically read a page, and then I will make sure I hold the picture up so you can see it really well. And then at the end of the story, I do have some questions and a sort of game that we can play together. So make sure you follow along. Okay, A Dark Night in the Garden. And this comes from the book of Luke, chapter 22, Mark 14, and John 18. The wind was picking up now, blowing clouds across the moon, shrouding the garden in darkness. "Stay up with me?" Jesus asked his friends. They said yes and waited under the olive trees, but they were tired and soon they fell asleep. Jesus walked ahead alone into the dark. He needed to talk to his heavenly Father. He knew it was time for him to die. They had planned it long ago, he and his Father. Jesus was going to take the punishment for all the wrong things anybody had ever done or ever would do. "Papa, Father," Jesus cried, and he fell to the ground. "Is there any other way to get your children back? To heal their hearts? To get rid of their poison?" But Jesus knew there was no other way. All the poison of sin was going to have to go into his own heart. God was going to pour into Jesus' heart all the sadness and brokenness in people's hearts. He was going to pour into Jesus' body all the sickness and the people's bodies. God was going to have to blame his son for everything that had gone wrong. It would crush Jesus. But there was something else, something even more horrible. When people ran away from God, they lost God. It was what happened when they ran away. Not being close to God was like a punishment. Jesus was going to take that punishment. Jesus knew what that meant. He was going to lose his Father, and that, Jesus knew, would break his heart in two. Violent sobs shook Jesus' whole body. Then Jesus was quiet, like a lamb. "I trust you, Papa," he said. "Whatever you say, I will do." Scoot over so you could see it a little bit better. Suddenly, through the trees, a glitter of starlight flashed off steel. Into the quiet garden came whispers, muffled voices, clanking metal, and the sound of boots marching. And Jesus stood up. He woke his friends. "Now is the time," he said gently. "Everything that was written about me, what God has been telling his people all through the long, long years, it's all coming true." And into the night, with burning torches and lanterns, with swords and clubs and armor, they came, an army of soldiers. Judas led them straight to Jesus so they could arrest him. Jesus was waiting for them. Peter leapt up, took a sword, and tried to defend Jesus. He sliced off a guard's ear. Jesus immediately touched the guard and healed him. "Peter," he said, "this is not the way." Peter didn't realize that no army, no matter how big, could ever arrest Jesus. Not unless Jesus let them. Then Jesus, who had never done anything except love people, was arrested, as if he were a criminal. Jesus' friends were afraid, so they ran away and hid in the dark shadows. The guards marched Jesus off and took him to the leaders. The leaders put Jesus on trial. "Are you the Son of God?" they asked. "I am," Jesus said. "Who do you think you are? To call yourself God? You must die for calling yourself the Son of God." Only the Romans were allowed to kill prisoners, so the leaders made a plan. "We'll tell the Romans, this man wants to be our king, and then they will crucify him. But it would all be all right. It was God's plan. It was for this reason that I was born into the world," Jesus said. So that is the end of the story of the dark night in the garden, and I hope that you will tune in next week to see what happens next. So I do have a couple of questions and a game that I thought would be a little bit fun for us to play. Again, I know we can't be together, but we can at least try to make it a little bit fun. So after that story that you just heard, or maybe you were reading along, let's play a game where I will ask a question, and I'm gonna basically just give you a couple seconds, and I want you to scream as loud as you can if you think the answer is yes or no. And then after about 5 seconds for each question, I will hold up the correct answer. Okay, just for fun. Maybe you're in a place where you can scream really loud, maybe not. Maybe you need to be really quiet, so maybe you can whisper the answer. But either way, try to see if it's a yes or no answer, okay? Okay, so let's see how well you were listening. So, were Jesus and his disciples, were they in a garden? Yes or no? Were Jesus and his disciples in a garden? Yes, they were. They were in the Garden of Gethsemane. Awesome. Jesus asked the disciples to stay up with him and pray. Did they? Did the disciples stay up with Jesus to pray? Or did they just go to sleep? No, they did not stay up. They did not stay up with Jesus to pray. Did Jesus and his Father plan the rescue and Jesus' death from the very beginning? Did Jesus and his Father plan the rescue and Jesus' death from the very, very, very beginning? Yes or no? It is yes. You are correct. Good job. All right, the next question. Was there any way for Jesus to rescue us other than by dying? I know that one can be kind of tough to think about. Was there any other way for Jesus to rescue all of us other than by having to die? Yes or no? You're right. No. There was no other way. Jesus had to die so that we all could live. All right. Next question. Y'all are doing a really good job. I just know it. Did Jesus end his prayer by saying to God, "Whatever you say, I will do"? Did Jesus end his prayer by saying to God, "Whatever you say, I will do"? Yes or no? Say it out loud. Yes or no? Yes. Yes, he ended his prayer by saying to God, "Whatever you say, I will do." I'm sure that was pretty hard. Okay, the next question. Peter took out his sword and he tried to defend Jesus. But did Jesus need defending? Yes or no? Peter took out his sword. He tried to defend Jesus. But did Jesus need defending? You're correct. No. Jesus did not need defending. All right, next question. Had Jesus ever done anything wrong? Yes or no? Has Jesus ever done anything wrong? Yes or no? What's that? No? You're right. No. Jesus never did anything wrong. When the leaders asked Jesus if he is the Son of God, does he disagree? Yes or no? No, he did not disagree. They asked Jesus if he was the Son of God, and he did not disagree. Were the leaders angry at Jesus? Were they angry at Jesus? Yes or no? You're right. Yes, they were very angry at Jesus. And then the last question before we're done together today, was this all part of God's plan? Was this all part of God's plan? Yes or no? Yes! Great job. Yes. So the story that we heard about today was all part of God's plan. And so Jesus knew that he would have to die, right? To take the punishment for our sin, right? Jesus knew that. The leaders made a plan to kill Jesus, right? But we know that all of this was all part of God's greater plan to rescue all of us. And so again, I hope you will join me again in a week, and we will continue on our story, and we will learn together what happens next with Jesus. Thanks, friends. Talk to you later. Bye.